biggest domino that needs to fall for the Golden State Warriors offseason, we all know, is Jonathan Kuminga and his impending free agency. We also know that the Warriors are exploring sign-and-trade options with Kuminga. On today's edition of Warriors Today by Chat Sports, we have a must-see report from NBA insiders on Kuminga's future and what potentially could be holding it up as the NBA trade sagas are just going crazy as we're less than a week away from the NBA draft. Before we get into all of it from Marc, Stein, and Jake Fisher, make sure you go down below and like the video. Hit the like button because I'm trying to set a record this month. The most likes we've gotten on a video in the month of June is 643. Can I get the 644 diehard Warriors fans to go down below and hit that thumbs up icon so we can set a record for the month of June and show my bosses that this channel still has got a lot of juice? All right, let's talk about it. So before we get into the actual Kuminga details, what's the overarching gray cloud above it all is that the rest of the NBA is waiting on a Kevin Durant trade. And that's affecting not only Kuminga, but a couple other different players. At this point, we know that Durant is very likely to be traded before the NBA draft, which is less than a week away at this point. Because there's going to be draft capital going around. He's so good at this point, he obviously commands assets back in the draft. And the finalists at this point are the Miami Heat, the Houston Rockets, and the San Antonio Spurs. And Timberwolves are kind of in there, but it really feels like a two-team race at this point. Not much interest from San Antonio, and Minnesota, KD apparently does not want to go there. So this trade is affecting a couple different players who are viewed across the league as trade candidates. And one of those players that Fisher and Stein kind of opened with was DeMar DeRozan, and how he's viewed by Sacramento as somebody that they want to get off of. And Sacramento currently does not have a first-round draft selection this year, so they're probably looking to move a guy like DeMar DeRozan potentially to get a first-round draft pick back in this year's draft. Because I don't know if DeRozan's value at this point will command a first-round pick. Maybe they send one down the line to get into this year's draft, because they've been telling teams, apparently the Kings have, that they're looking to be drafting in the 20s at some point. That's what they've been telling agents around the league. So how does Kuminga kind of factor into all this? We're talking about DeRozan right now. He's not going to be a Warrior. Let's talk about it. Marc Stein and Jake Fisher said the following: the immediate future of Golden State's Jonathan Kuminga would appear to be even more clouded by Durant uncertainty than DeMar DeRozan's. Kuminga, of course, will soon become a restricted free agent. There have been no tangible rumblings to this point, though, that Brooklyn, which is the NBA's lone team on course to have significant salary cap this summer, has plans to pursue Kuminga with the Nets' projected $55 million in operating room. Trying to forecast sign-and-trade scenarios that could potentially materialize for the bouncy 22-year-old swingman will thus be difficult to pinpoint until Durant's situation is settled. Maybe Miami, for example, would make a sign-and-trade run at Kuminga in the event that the Heat do not win the trade race to acquire the league's number 8 all-time leading scorer. Sources say Miami has registered a level of interest in Kuminga in previous trade cycles. And I think that happened at the trade deadline when the Butler trade was made, but they couldn't do it due to the money that Andrew Wiggins was making relative to Jonathan Kuminga. Look, this Durant stuff, can it just be over already? Can you just get on a new team so the rest of the NBA can make their moves? Because it doesn't seem like things are moving as fast as Brian Windhorst and Shams Charania had said a few weeks ago. Yeah, we had the blockbuster for Desmond Bane, but it's been all quiet on the NBA front ever since then. We need this Durant thing to move along, so we know that Jonathan Kuminga can get his stuff going thereafter, and the Warriors can just get their roster set in stone for next season. But it kind of pumped the brakes a little bit, though, because my thinking is like, does Kuminga really factor into Durant's trade saga? Because a Kuminga sign and trade can't happen until free agency. He is a restricted free agent, and we kind of know that Durant is going to be traded before the draft ends up happening. So how does this really correlate? Well, Golden State can talk to teams. Like, Golden State can talk to different teams about Kuminga, but I'm not so sure that those teams are going to want to do that right now because some of them are pursuing Kevin Durant. Like, we know the teams that have reportedly had interest in Jonathan Kuminga to this point, the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls. Well, yeah, the Bulls aren't making a run at KD, but the Heat certainly are, and they view Kuminga as a fallback option like they do with DeMar DeRozan. So, like, they're kind of off the table right now as far as Kuminga trade discussions go until this Durant thing is settled and until they do not get Kevin Durant. Like, if they get KD, see ya. The Miami Heat, they are off of the list as far as a Jonathan Kuminga trade goes. So a lot is to be determined as far as Jonathan Kuminga's future when it comes to a Kevin Durant trade. And remember, on the flip side, like, after this all gets done, like, it's not easy, road to drive down after the fact. A Kuminga sign and trade is very difficult to find. You have to find a team that wants him. You have to find a team that wants to pay him. You have to find a team that has players back that Golden State would be willing to take back at a Kuminga sign and trade. And those players have to make a certain salary figure that makes it acceptable to return to Golden State in a trade. Remember, they can only take back 50% of what Kuminga's new salary will be in year 1 of his extension. So with that being said, what do you guys think happens with Jonathan Kuminga at this point? Does he end up getting traded this offseason, or does Golden State run it back with JK next season and potentially beyond? You let me know in the comments section. T for trade, K for keep. What happens with Jonathan Kuminga? We'll talk more about Jonathan Kuminga in just a moment, but I could not do this video without telling you guys about this awesome deal that we have on tap, and that's Steph Curry jerseys for 50% off. Yeah, slice that piece in half. Slice that piece in half. How many times ever do you see Steph Curry jerseys for half off? Yeah, you can get one today at this link right here, chatsports.com/CurryCity. Yeah, it's the Warriors City jerseys. They probably won't wear them again next year, but they won games in them this year, and they're fresh, man. Gold, navy, and red. I like this color scheme. You can get yours today at this link right here. They got all the sizes, chatsports.com/CurryCity. I'll put that link in the comment section in the description of today's video to make it easier for you guys. Go get yourself some Steph Curry jersey drip for half off today. All right, so let's talk more about Kuminga here, because according to multiple reports at this point, the most likely option is that the sign and trade isn't even going to happen, and that he ends up extending with Golden State and at least being on the roster for the 25-26 season, or at least the start of it. We've heard from Monty Poole that Golden State and basically everybody in the organization doesn't believe that Jonathan Kuminga is going to be the one to carry them into this next era and be a focal point on a title-contending team, but the avenues to trading him are very difficult, so they could be willing to bring him back at least for the start of next season, and he becomes trade eligible in December, or at least 6 months after he signs his new deal, so they could look to trade him in the winter or close to the trade deadline as well. I've said it a million times on this channel. I don't want to do that. I don't want more dysfunction in the middle of the season, and I would rather this all kind of get worked out this summer, even if the player that you get back isn't as good of a productive player that Jonathan Kuminga is at this point when it comes to box scores. And if they do end up keeping Kuminga this offseason, they still need to add talent. They cannot run back the same exact group heading into next year, because we know what that group's ceiling was. And, do we? I don't know. Curry got hurt. You never know what could have happened in the Western Conference Finals if he was healthy. But there isn't a guarantee that Kuminga would have been a part of that rotation, and it would be more clear now that he would be finding a new home this offseason than if Curry did get hurt. So, and he had all that opportunity to play against the Timberwolves and play at a really high level. Glad that he got his trade value raised up a little bit by that if they end up making a deal for him this offseason. But if they don't, maybe they could use some of the exceptions that they have around their books after, or I guess before, the Kuminga re-sign, because they can absorb his bird rights and pay into the luxury tax for him. They could use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception at $14.1 million. So there's some really solid mid-level free agents around the block this offseason that could fit under that bill. Also the biannual exception. But keep in mind, when you use these exceptions, you get hard capped at the first apron. So we'll see if they end up being able to use these kinds of exceptions and re-sign Kuminga. I'm not exactly 100% sure how all possible that is. But what I do know is they have to make improvements marginally around this roster. We need better role players. We don't need Gary Payton playing fourth quarter minutes in the playoffs. I'm sorry. I love GP2. He provides a ton of energy, good defense, but man, he cannot play on the other end of the floor. We need guys who are able to be out there in critical situations and be out there and raise the floor of the rest of the Warriors roster. It can't be Steph raising the floor of everybody else. It needs to be everybody else helping and doing their part as well. So the Warriors easily still need to add talent this offseason. And the rumor that's been going around a little bit lately is that in a Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade to acquire a bigger talent, a bigger salary figured talent, the Warriors would be willing to include Moses Moody in any one of those deals. But as of right now in this part of the show, we're not really operating under the fact that Kuminga is going to be traded. It seems in all likelihood that he is headed back to the Golden State Warriors for next season. So why do I bring this up now? Well, if Golden State wants to make improvements this offseason, then maybe Moses Moody is a name that needs to be on the chopping block, even though he is not entering the first year of a contract extension. I saw this trade idea on the interwebs over the past couple of hours, and you know what? I thought it was pretty decent. I thought it was fairly realistic for the most part. Now, the Warriors would receive Santi Aldama of the Memphis Grizzlies, who is a free agent this offseason, albeit restricted. So that would be a sign-and-trade ordeal. He would be absorbed into the mid-level exception contract, but Golden State would get some relief in doing that by giving away Moses Moody to the Brooklyn Nets in this 3-team deal. The Grizzlies would get a whole heck of a lot younger by adding a couple of guards and wings from Brooklyn and Dariq Whitehead and Keon Johnson, who I saw some people in the Twitter replies about this trade saying that if it was just Dariq Whitehead, then maybe Brooklyn would accept this, but giving both of them up for Moses Moody probably wouldn't be that ideal for them. So maybe this is a little bit unrealistic from Brooklyn's side, but from all accounts, I think every team gets pretty much better at this point. Moses Moody could play a bunch of minutes up in Brooklyn. The Grizzlies get younger after trading away one of their core pieces, and then the Warriors get a 3-and-D ball handling 7-footer wing big player. Like they can do so many different things as an offensive Swiss Army knife for them. So I like this deal a lot, especially for Golden State. What do you guys think? Would you make this trade? A for accept, D for decline. I'm trying to hear from Dub Nation on what they would do if the Warriors were presented with this 3-team trade that sends Santi Aldama to Golden State for Moses Moody and that 2026 first-round pick swap going to Memphis. That will do it for today's edition of Warriors Today by Chat Sports. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because if anything like that trade ends up materializing or rumblings get a little hotter, we're going to bring you guys the rumors, and then we'll bring you the news when it goes down right here at Warriors Today. So lock us in for the best Warriors offseason content on YouTube. We'll see you guys all in the next one. And as always, let's go Dubs.